Hey loggers, I want to thank you for your support so far. Together we can build a wonderful community and expand this creepy universe even further. Help me reach 500 subscribers. Something very big is coming. Now without further ado, when we reach 500, the next door opens. What waits beyond is something I can't face alone. Join the logs. Stay aware. Stay afraid. Let's dive into today's story. When I got transferred to Ashwood High, everyone told me the same thing. Don't stay after dark. They said it casually, half joking, like it was just another rumor about the old building. The school was over 100 years old. Brick walls blackened with age, hallways lined with creaky lockers that had dents older than my parents. It felt alive the moment I walked in, the kind of place where footsteps echo too long, where shadows hang even when the lights are bright. I didn't believe the stories until the night I forgot my bag. It was late, nearly 8 p.m. The janitor's already gone. I slipped back through the side entrance and headed for my classroom on the 3rd floor. The halls were silent, my footsteps the only sound, the kind of silence that presses on your ears until you start to imagine whispers beneath it. Halfway up the stairwell, the lights flickered. Once, twice, then steadied. I stopped, gripping the railing, heart pounding, though I told myself it was just old wiring. But when I looked up, there was someone at the top of the stairs. A girl. She wore the same uniform as me, skirt and blouse, but the colors looked wrong, washed out, almost gray. Her hair hung over her face. She didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't blink. I opened my mouth to speak, but the lights flickered again, and she was gone. I should have turned around then. I should have left the bag, left the school, left the whole damn town. But I forced myself up the stairs, one step at a time, telling myself I was seeing things. The 3rd floor was worse. The air felt heavy, damp, like a storm was trapped inside the walls. I hurried down the hall, counting doors until I reached my classroom. The door was unlocked, which was strange because the teachers always locked them at night. Inside, my bag sat on the desk, right where I'd left it. But the desks around it weren't empty anymore. They were full. Every chair was occupied by students, but not living ones. Their skin was gray, thin, eyes black and hollow, mouths stretched too wide. They sat perfectly still, facing the chalkboard, hands folded neatly. I couldn't move. My body locked up, breath trapped in my chest. Then, all at once, they turned. Every head snapped toward me in perfect unison, bones cracking with the motion. Their mouths opened, and the sound that poured out wasn't a scream, wasn't speech. It was laughter, low, broken, echoing through the room. The lights flickered again, and they were gone. Just desks, just empty chairs, just my bag sitting there. I grabbed it and bolted, sprinting down the hall, down the stairs, shoving through the doors into the night air. I didn't stop running until I was halfway home, lungs burning, sweat cold on my skin. The next morning, I told myself it was stress, exhaustion, my imagination. I made myself go back. The classrooms looked normal. The desks were empty. Everything was fine. until I sat down. Carved into the wood of my desk, deep and fresh, were words that hadn't been there before. Welcome back. I promised myself I wouldn't stay late again, but promises don't mean much when you're 17 and your grades are hanging by a thread. The history teacher had assigned an essay, and I'd been careless enough to leave half my notes in my locker. By the time practice ended and I remembered, it was already dusk. I told myself I'd be quick, 5 minutes, in and out. The halls were almost empty when I stepped inside. A single strip of fluorescent lights buzzed faintly, the sound magnified in the silence. My shoes echoed too loudly against the tiles, bouncing off the lockers and back into my ears until I felt like I was being followed. I went straight for my locker, twisting the dial with shaking fingers. The lock clicked open, and I grabbed my notebook. That should have been it. But when I closed the locker door, I caught it in the reflection of the metal. Someone standing just behind me. I spun, heart slamming, but the hallway was empty. Just shadows stretching longer as the last of the sun faded through the high windows. My breath came fast, fogging in the sudden chill. I told myself I imagined it. I told myself I'd leave right now. But when I turned toward the exit, it was gone. The end of the hall stretched further than it should have, lockers on either side repeating, as though the building had shifted in the dark. I walked faster. The hall only grew longer. The lights buzzed louder, flickering until the shadows moved like they were alive. I started running. That's when the bell rang. It was deafening, shrill, echoing through the entire building. Not the normal end of class bell. This one rang longer, harsher, until my ears throbbed. When it cut off, the silence left my head ringing, and then doors began to open. Classroom after classroom, doors groaning wide, desks scraping inside. Figures stepped out, students, teachers, all wrong. Their faces were pale and stretched, mouths too wide, eyes black and glossy like mirrors. They shuffled into the hall, turning their heads toward me in unison. I ran. My footsteps pounded the floor, but theirs didn't. They moved silently, gliding closer no matter how fast I went. I tried the stairwell, locked. I tried another hallway. It twisted back on itself, leading me in circles. My chest ached, throat raw, panic flooding every nerve. Finally, I crashed through the gym doors. The room was empty, silent, the basketball hoops hanging like gallows. I sprinted across the floor, sneakers squealing against polished wood. Then I stopped. Every bleacher seat was filled. Hundreds of students sitting in perfect rows, faces pale, eyes blank, heads turning to follow me. Their mouths opened, and the laughter started again. Low at first, then louder, rising until it shook the walls. I backed away, hands over my ears, the sound drilling through me. My bag slipped from my shoulder, landing with a thud. The laughter cut off instantly, silence so deep it made me dizzy. Then, from the front row, one of them stood. It was me. Same uniform, same shoes, same scar on my chin. My face, my body, but hollow-eyed and grinning. It raised its hand and pointed straight at me. The rest stood with it, hundreds of me, pointing in unison, mouths opening together, and my own voice filled the gym, layered, multiplied, screaming one word over and over. Stay. The doors behind me slammed shut. The sound of the doors slamming echoed through the gym like a gunshot. I spun, but there was no handle anymore, just a flat sheet of wall where the exit had been. My bag lay at my feet, useless, forgotten. The bleachers groaned as hundreds of my doubles leaned forward in unison, their pale hands resting on their knees, their eyes locked on me. The one that had first stood stepped closer. Its smile stretched too wide, skin cracking at the corners of its mouth. When it spoke, its voice was mine, but flat and cold, like it was echoing from somewhere deep underground. You're late. My throat closed. I backed across the polished floor, shoes squealing, heart hammering so loud I thought it might drown everything else out. But the doubles didn't move fast. They didn't need to. They shuffled down from the bleachers in eerie silence, their shoes never making a sound, their bodies swaying as if pulled by strings. The basketball hoops lowered with a groan, chains rattling, nets snapping. The scoreboard lit up on its own, numbers flickering to life, 00:01. Then it froze. The doubles encircled me now, pressing close but not touching. Their heads twitched, jerking in tiny spasms like broken projectors. Each face was mine, some younger, some older, all staring blank and hollow. The leader leaned closer, its breath cold against my ear. Class is starting. The gym floor cracked, not loudly, quietly, like wood splitting beneath weight it couldn't hold. A line spread across the polished boards, jagged and black, splitting wider and wider until the floor yawned open. Beneath it wasn't the foundation of a school. It was dirt, mud, rows of desks half buried in the soil, and seated in them students, not mine, not anyone's. They were corpses, skinless in some places, rotting in others, their heads lolling forward, their hands twitching faintly over notebooks stained dark. The doubles pushed me toward the gap. I fought, shoving, kicking, but every touch burned, their hands leaving welts like frostbite. I stumbled forward, the leader gripping my shoulder, shoving me down into the pit. I fell onto one of the rotting desks, splinters digging into my palms. The corpse next to me turned its head, bones creaking, and whispered in a voice like dead leaves, "Take notes." The chalkboard loomed ahead, towering over the pit, larger than it could ever fit inside the gym. A teacher stood in front of it, tall and thin, its back to us, arm jerking as it scrawled across the board with screeches of chalk. Its head was tilted wrong, neck bending sideways, hair hanging like a curtain. The doubles filled the desks around me one by one until the room was full. Hundreds of me sitting in silence, notebooks open, pens scratching though no one was moving their hands. The teacher's writing crawled across the board like it was alive. Lesson 1. You are not yourself. My notebook flipped open by itself, a pen forced into my hand, moving against my will. The words wrote themselves in my handwriting, neat and careful. My jaw clenched, my breath shaking, but I couldn't stop it. The corpse beside me leaned closer, its teeth clicking together in a sick rhythm. The chalk squealed again. Lesson 2. You will be replaced. I screamed. The sound bounced around the pit, but none of the others reacted. They only wrote. My doubles smiled faintly, hands moving in perfect sync. The teacher paused, then turned its head without turning its body. It was my face. Burned, stretched, melted, but mine. Its eyes were black voids, its smile endless. It lifted the chalk again and dragged the final words across the board. Lesson 3. Class is forever. The bell rang, so loud it shattered everything. My ears, my thoughts, my sense of time. The doubles stood, their chairs scraping. They all turned toward me, their voices breaking into laughter that wasn't laughter, just noise. Endless noise. Hands grabbed me from every side, dragging me forward, up to the front, up to the teacher. It reached out and cupped my chin in its cold hand. Its jaw opened, unhinging, stretching until it split. The black inside of it poured over me like a tide. I felt myself slipping, melting, sinking into the endless chorus of my own voice. And then the lights flickered. The gym was empty, the desks gone, the floor spotless. I was alone, my bag still at my feet. But when I picked it up, I found my notebook had been opened. My handwriting filled every page. The last line read, "See you tomorrow."